The night didn't start with a fight. That was the first thing that made it feel wrong. At 2:57 a.m., I woke up to the sound of something heavy hitting the floor downstairs. Not loud enough to panic, just enough to pull me out of sleep. The house was too quiet after that. No footsteps, no voices, nothing. Just silence stretching unnaturally through every corner. By 3:02 a.m., my bedroom door flew open. Ethan stood there. Not confused. Not half asleep. Fully dressed. Eyes cold in a way I had never seen before. 3 words changed everything. Get out. Now. At first, I thought it was a joke. A bad one. My brain refused to catch up with the moment. I laughed, waiting for him to break character, but he didn't move. Didn't blink. Just pointed toward the hallway like I was a stranger who had overstayed her welcome. Something inside me dropped. I asked what was going on. My voice sounded smaller than I expected. He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped aside, giving me a clear path to the stairs like I had already agreed to leave. That was the first hook. The first crack. Because Ethan never avoided explanations. Never. I grabbed my phone, my purse, whatever I could reach. My hands were shaking, but not from fear alone. From confusion. From the sick feeling that something had already happened, something I wasn't being told. Halfway down the stairs, I noticed the lights in the living room were on. And someone was sitting there. A shadow at first. Still. Watching. I stopped. Ethan's voice came from behind me, sharper now. Keep moving. I didn't. I couldn't. Because the figure in the living room slowly leaned forward, and I realized I recognized that posture. That silhouette. My stomach twisted. That wasn't just anyone. That was someone who should not have been in my house. Not at 3 a.m. Not ever. The second hook hit hard. Because in that moment, I understood one thing clearly. This wasn't about a fight. This was about something planned. And whatever it was, I was already too late to stop it. My feet refused to move, but the silence behind me felt heavier than the presence in front. Ethan stepped closer, and I could feel the pressure of his gaze without turning around. This wasn't anger. It was urgency wrapped in something colder. I forced myself down the last step. The figure in the living room shifted slightly, enough for the light to catch her face. Everything inside me froze. Vanessa. My older sister. The same sister who had disappeared from my life 3 years ago after a scandal no one in the family ever fully explained. The same sister Ethan used to avoid even mentioning. And now she was sitting in my living room like she belonged there. Her expression wasn't emotional. No shock, no guilt, nothing. Just calm. Too calm. Something snapped into place in my mind, but it didn't make sense yet. Ethan walked past me and stopped near her, not close enough to touch, but close enough to show alignment. That distance between them felt calculated, like a performance. My chest tightened. This wasn't random. This wasn't unexpected. This was arranged. I asked what she was doing here. My voice came out steadier this time, but my pulse was racing fast enough to make my vision blur. Vanessa didn't answer immediately. She studied me first, like she was measuring how much I already knew. That look alone made my stomach turn. Then she finally spoke. Her tone was soft, almost careful, but there was something underneath it. Something sharp. She said I should have left when I had the chance. The words didn't land right away. They echoed instead, bouncing around my thoughts until they started to take shape. Left what? Left when? Ethan cut in before I could ask anything else. He told me to go. Not tomorrow, not later. Now. No explanations. No discussion. Just leave. The third hook dug deeper. Because this wasn't about removing me from the house. This felt like removing me from something bigger. Something they didn't want me to see. I looked back at Vanessa, hoping for even a hint of emotion. Anything that could ground this moment in reality. Instead, she leaned back into the couch, completely at ease. Like she had been waiting for this moment. Like this was always going to happen. And then she said something that made my blood run cold. She said it was never really my house to begin with. That was the moment everything shifted. Because suddenly, this wasn't just strange. This was deliberate. And whatever they were hiding was already in motion. The words echoed in my head long after she said them. Never really my house. That sentence didn't just feel wrong, it felt constructed, like a line rehearsed long before tonight. I stepped forward without thinking, my body reacting before my mind could catch up. My eyes moved between Ethan and Vanessa, searching for cracks in whatever this was. There had to be one. Some sign this was temporary, emotional, fixable. There was nothing. Ethan's posture stayed rigid, controlled. Vanessa looked almost relaxed, like she had already reached the end of a story I was just beginning to understand. I asked Ethan to explain. Not loudly, not desperately. Just clearly. I needed facts, something solid to hold on to. He didn't give me that. Instead, he pulled something from the table beside him and placed it in front of me. A folder. Thin. Ordinary. Completely out of place at 3 in the morning. My stomach tightened as I picked it up. The paper inside felt heavier than it should have. Legal formatting. Typed lines. Signatures. My name appeared first. Then Ethan's. Then words that made my chest constrict. Property transfer. The air shifted. I flipped through the pages faster, each line pulling the ground out from under me piece by piece. Dates I didn't remember signing. Clauses I had never agreed to. Language designed to confuse, to bury meaning under layers of formality. And then I saw it. A signature. Mine. Perfectly placed at the bottom of a page I had never seen before. The fourth hook locked in. Because I knew, without a doubt, I had never signed this. My fingers started to tremble, not from weakness, but from the sharp clarity cutting through the confusion. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was fraud. Planned, executed, and finalized before I even realized there was a game being played. I looked up slowly. Vanessa was watching me, her expression unchanged, almost curious. Ethan avoided my eyes this time. That small shift told me everything. He knew. Maybe not every detail, maybe not the full extent, but he knew enough to stand where he was standing. Enough to choose this side. A cold realization settled in. This wasn't happening tonight. This had been building for months. Maybe longer. Every small moment I ignored, every instinct I dismissed, every time something felt off, but I chose to trust instead. It all led here. I closed the folder carefully, forcing my hands to steady. Then I asked one question. Not about the papers. Not about the house. But about her. Why now? Vanessa leaned forward slightly, her eyes locking onto mine with unsettling precision. And that was when the fifth hook hit. Because the answer she gave didn't just explain tonight. It rewrote everything I thought I knew about the past. Vanessa didn't rush her answer. She let the silence stretch, watching the weight of everything settle on me. It felt intentional, like she wanted me to feel every second of it before she spoke. Then she said it was never about now. It started long before I met Ethan. That sentence cut deeper than anything else so far. My mind pushed back instantly. That wasn't possible. My life before Ethan had nothing to do with her disappearance, nothing to do with whatever this was. But the certainty in her voice didn't leave room for doubt. She stood up slowly, smoothing her sleeves like this was a meeting she had prepared for. She said I walked into something that was already in motion. That I was never supposed to stay as long as I did. That I made things complicated. The words didn't sound emotional. They sounded calculated. I felt something shift inside me, not fear this time, something sharper. Awareness. The kind that comes too late but still changes everything. I asked what she meant, pushing past the pressure building in my chest. My voice stayed controlled, but every nerve in my body was alert now, searching for truth in every detail. Vanessa stepped closer, reducing the distance between us just enough to make it uncomfortable. Then she dropped the twist. She said Ethan didn't choose me. Not really. My thoughts stalled. She explained that their connection didn't start after I entered the picture. It existed before, hidden, buried under something that looked like distance. She said they never actually lost contact. Not fully. The room felt smaller. I looked at Ethan again, waiting for him to deny it. To react. To break this version of reality she was building piece by piece. He didn't. That silence confirmed more than words ever could. The sixth hook tightened. Because this wasn't betrayal in the moment. This was something that had been running underneath my entire relationship. Every memory I trusted suddenly felt unstable. Every moment replayed differently in my mind. Vanessa continued, her tone steady, almost clinical. She said I was useful, that my presence made certain things easier, cleaner, more believable. A cover. The word didn't need to be spoken. It was already there. My pulse slowed instead of racing. That scared me more than anything. The panic was being replaced by clarity. I started connecting pieces. The sudden business trips. The unexplained phone calls. The nights Ethan felt distant but dismissed it as stress. Even the way Vanessa disappeared years ago without closure. It wasn't random. It was strategic. Then Ethan finally spoke. Not loudly, not aggressively. Just enough to shift the energy again. He said it was time for me to leave. But this time, it sounded different. Not like a command. Like a warning. And that changed everything. Because in that moment, I realized something they didn't expect me to notice. They weren't just pushing me out. They were rushing me out. And that meant one thing. Whatever they were hiding was still inside this house. The shift was subtle, but once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. This wasn't just about forcing me out. It was about timing. They needed me gone before something happened, or before I discovered something they hadn't planned for. That realization grounded me. The confusion that had been clouding my thoughts began to clear, replaced by something colder and more focused. If they were rushing, then I still had value in this moment. I wasn't completely powerless yet. I adjusted my grip on the folder, keeping my expression neutral. Panic would only make this easier for them. Questions wouldn't get answers. Not directly. So I changed tactics. I nodded once, slowly, as if I accepted everything without resistance. The tension in the room shifted instantly. Vanessa's posture relaxed just a fraction. Ethan's shoulders dropped, almost imperceptibly. They thought I was done. That was their mistake. I moved toward the front door, steady, controlled, every step measured. My heart was pounding, but my face stayed calm. I reached for the handle, then paused just long enough to glance back. Not at Vanessa. At Ethan. There was something there, buried deep under whatever role he was playing. A flicker. Regret, maybe. Or doubt. It disappeared too quickly to hold on to, but it was real. Another piece. I stepped outside into the cold night air, the door closing behind me with a finality that echoed louder than it should have. For a second, I stood there, letting the silence settle. Then I moved. Not away from the house. Around it. The seventh hook took hold. Because if they were hiding something inside, there was a chance they hadn't secured everything outside. The side path was darker, the motion sensor light slow to react. I kept close to the wall, my steps quiet against the ground. Every window I passed told me the same story. Lights on. Movement inside. Shadows crossing rooms too quickly. They were busy. Good. I reached the back of the house and stopped. The kitchen window was slightly open. Not enough to notice from inside. Just enough to matter. My pulse spiked again, but this time it carried something else with it. Control. I slid the window up carefully, inch by inch, listening for any sound that might give me away. Nothing. The house stayed loud in its own chaos. I climbed inside. The air felt different immediately. Tense. Charged. Like something was about to break. I stayed low, moving through the kitchen toward the hallway. Voices echoed faintly from the living room, but I couldn't make out words yet. Then I heard something else. A sound that didn't belong. Soft. Irregular. Coming from upstairs. I froze. Because I knew that sound. And it didn't match anything Vanessa or Ethan had planned. The eighth hook hit without warning. Someone else was in the house. And based on that sound, they weren't supposed to be. The sound came again, faint but unmistakable. A slow, uneven thud followed by something dragging lightly across the floor above me. Not footsteps. Not movement someone could hide easily. My body reacted before logic could catch up. I moved toward the staircase, each step deliberate, careful not to let the wood creak under my weight. The voices from the living room grew sharper now, still distant but more urgent. They were arguing. Not loudly, but intensely. Whatever control they had a few minutes ago was slipping. Good. That meant their attention wasn't on me. I reached the bottom of the stairs and paused, listening again. The sound upstairs stopped completely, like whoever or whatever made it had sensed something. The silence that followed felt heavier than noise. For a moment, doubt tried to creep in. This could be a mistake. This could be exactly what they wanted. But then something shifted above. A quick scrape. A suppressed breath. Not imagined. Real. I started up the stairs. Halfway up, the air felt colder. The hallway light upstairs flickered once, then steadied. A detail so small it should have meant nothing, but right now everything meant something. At the top, I stopped. The hallway stretched in front of me, dimly lit, doors closed except one. The guest room. It was slightly open, just enough to reveal darkness inside. That didn't make sense. No one used that room. Ever. Another thud came from inside, softer this time, followed by a low, strained sound that made my chest tighten instantly. Pain. Someone was in pain. The ninth hook locked in place. Because whatever this was, it wasn't part of their controlled plan. I moved toward the door, my pulse loud in my ears now. Every instinct told me to turn back, to leave before I got pulled deeper into something I couldn't escape. But it was too late for that. I pushed the door open slowly. The room smelled different. Stale. Closed off. Like it hadn't been used in a long time. At first, I saw nothing. Then my eyes adjusted. And everything changed. A figure was on the floor near the far wall, partially in shadow, hands bound behind their back. Movement was weak, barely controlled, like they had been struggling for hours. My breath caught. I stepped closer, the floor cold beneath my feet. The figure turned slightly at the sound, and the light from the hallway hit their face just enough to reveal it. Recognition hit instantly. Too fast. Too sharp. My mind rejected it at first. That couldn't be right. That person wasn't supposed to be here. Not like this. Not ever. The 10th hook twisted deeper. Because the person tied up in that room was the one person who could destroy everything Vanessa and Ethan had built. And judging by the way they looked at me, they were just as shocked to see me alive in this house. For a second, neither of us moved. The shock between us wasn't equal. Mine came from seeing him here, bound, broken, and hidden like a secret that had gone too far. His came from something else entirely. Relief. Not complete, not safe, but real enough to cut through the fear in his eyes. Daniel. The name landed in my mind with force. Ethan's business partner. The man who had vanished 2 weeks ago without a trace. The same disappearance that Ethan dismissed as a sudden overseas deal, something confidential, something I wasn't supposed to question. And now he was here, tied up in my house. My chest tightened as I dropped to my knees beside him, my hands already moving to loosen the restraints. The rope was tight, digging into his skin, leaving marks that told a story I didn't want to fully understand yet. His breathing was uneven, controlled, but strained. He tried to speak, but I shook my head quickly, pressing a finger to my lips. The walls felt thinner now. Every sound mattered. I worked faster. The knot resisted at first, like it had been tied with precision, not panic. That alone sent another wave of realization through me. This wasn't impulsive. This was planned, contained, deliberate. Finally, the rope gave. His hands came free, but he didn't move right away. His muscles were stiff, barely responsive. I helped him sit up, keeping my movements quiet, controlled. His eyes stayed locked on mine. There was urgency there. Warning. He leaned closer, his voice barely a breath. He said they were running out of time. The 11th hook snapped into place. I asked what he meant, keeping my voice low, steady despite the pressure building inside me. Daniel swallowed, his throat dry, every word costing him effort. He said this was bigger than the house, bigger than the property papers, bigger than whatever Vanessa had told me downstairs. He said Ethan wasn't just covering something up. He was trying to finish something. That word stayed with me. Finish. A cold realization started to form, but it didn't fully land yet. I helped him to his feet, his weight unsteady against me. He winced, but stayed focused, pushing through whatever pain he was in. We needed to move. But before we could take a step, a sound cut through the hallway. A floorboard creaked. Not from us. From outside the room. We both froze. The air shifted instantly, heavy with something dangerous. Slow footsteps followed, measured, controlled. Coming closer. The 12th hook tightened without warning. Because there was only one person upstairs who could move like that without making a mistake. Vanessa. Daniel's grip on my arm tightened slightly, just enough to ground me. His whisper was sharper this time. He said if she found us now, it wouldn't end the way I thought. That warning didn't feel like fear. It felt like certainty. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. And in that moment, I realized something even worse than being caught. She already knew I was here. The silence outside the door wasn't hesitation. It was control. Vanessa wasn't guessing. She wasn't checking. She was waiting. Letting the pressure build until it broke something inside me first. But something had already changed. I wasn't the same person she had planned for. Daniel's grip steadied as I slowly stepped away from him, my eyes fixed on the door. Every instinct told me to run, to hide, to react. But running was exactly what they expected. So I did the opposite. I moved forward. The handle turned slowly, deliberately, and the door opened. Vanessa stood there, composed as ever, but her eyes flickered for just a second when she saw Daniel standing. That was all I needed. The first crack. Behind her, Ethan appeared, his expression no longer controlled. This time, there was tension, real and visible. Things had moved outside their plan. Good. I stepped into the hallway, placing myself between them and Daniel. No fear. No confusion. Just clarity. I told them it was over. Not loudly. Not emotionally. Just as a fact. Vanessa's lips curved slightly, but it didn't reach her eyes. She stepped forward, confident, ready to take control again. She said I still didn't understand what I was dealing with. That was her mistake. Because I understood enough. Enough to know they had hidden Daniel for a reason. Enough to know the documents downstairs were only part of something bigger. And most importantly, enough to know they thought I had nothing. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Then I showed them. The screen was still recording. Audio. Video. Everything. From the moment I stepped back inside. Their voices downstairs. The papers. Vanessa's words. Ethan's silence. And now this. The shift was instant. Ethan's face drained of color. Vanessa didn't move. That told me everything. I didn't stop there. I told them the file had already been sent. Timed. Secured. Not just to one place, but several. Authorities, legal contacts, people who would understand exactly what this meant. Fraud. Kidnapping. Conspiracy. The words didn't need to be said out loud. They were already hanging in the air. The 13th hook hit its peak. Because for the first time tonight, they had no control. Vanessa's calm finally cracked. Just slightly, but enough. Her eyes sharpened, calculating a new outcome, searching for a way out that no longer existed. Ethan looked at me differently now. Not like someone being removed. Like someone he had underestimated. I stepped back toward Daniel, helping him stay steady. Then I gave them the final piece. I told them I didn't come back for the house. I came back for the truth. And now I had it. Sirens cut through the distance, growing louder with every second. Real. Unstoppable. Vanessa didn't run. Ethan didn't speak. For the first time, they were exactly where they had tried to put me. Trapped. I turned away before they could say anything else. Some endings don't need closure. Just consequences. And as the red and blue lights filled the windows behind me, one thing became clear. They didn't beg me to come back because they missed me. They begged because they knew I was the only one who could end them. Tell me in the comments that where are you watching this story from? Like this story and subscribe to this channel for more interesting revenge stories.